Amid rising US tariffs on foreign products, Kazakhstan is attracting increasing attention from international investors. In an exclusive interview with New Time reporter Baljan Samigulina, Andrew McDowell, Director General of the European Investment Bank, spoke about the growing interest in Kazakhstan, particularly in projects related to critical raw materials. McDowell also highlighted a €200 million loan to Kazakhstan that was proceeded last week, aimed at boosting transport infrastructure and renewable energy development. He also touched upon a loan to Ukraine to strengthen its military capabilities and support the country's resilience amidst ongoing conflict. What other projects the EIB is interested in investing, and what changes has the bank put within the geopolitical tensions in the region? Watch the fragment of the interview to find out the answers right now.
Mr. McDowell, thank you very much for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you with us. And there has been announcement within your trip to Kazakhstan that €200 million has been allocated to Kazakhstan. Could you please share about the details on what spheres it will be dedicated for, please?
Indeed, we confirmed a €200 million loan to the Development Bank of Kazakhstan to finance both sustainable transport projects as well as renewable energy projects. On the transport side, our financing will go towards the rehabilitation and renovation of 5,000 kilometers of roads across Kazakhstan, but linked to the Trans-Caspian corridor. Obviously, that's a win-win partnership because that helps trade between the European Union and Kazakhstan and the rest of Asia. But locally, it also creates about 3,500 jobs and obviously improves the quality of transport for the citizens of Kazakhstan. Equally, on the energy side, we'll be financing renewable energy projects, which again is good for the world because it reduces carbon emissions and good for the European Union, but also good for Kazakhstan because it obviously increases Kazakhstan's energy independence, as well as reduces in time energy costs for Kazakhstan and reduces pollution.
Kazakhstan aims to expand the market share on the battery materials too, especially taking into account that US now has imposed 25% duties on foreign steel and aluminum. Can we expect perhaps new investments from your bank to Kazakhstan as well, and perhaps also on the critical raw materials, which 19 out of 34 materials that listed by the EU are here?
Absolutely, and this is another has huge potential for another win-win partnership between the European Union and Kazakhstan. Obviously, European industry, particularly the auto industry, but other industries as well, have huge needs for the critical raw materials that you mentioned. And Kazakhstan has enormous wealth and natural resources in these particular areas. And this morning we heard from ministers in your government of the desire to collaborate with Europe in financing, in technology, in transport, in processing, not just about the extraction of those materials, but also building up local industries in Kazakhstan, local value added, local employment, in a sustainable way, and in a way that meets the highest environmental and social standards, involving local communities and benefiting local communities, in a way that's sustainable for the future. So we think this is an area of enormous potential in terms of collaboration. EIB, European Investment Bank, has a lot of expertise and financing power to support projects of this nature, and we look forward to further discussions in this particular space.
Let's now a little bit switch off to the global issues. How does EIB view the instability now in Europe that has been facing now in the last years? How does the bank view and approach military funding, because there were discussions that a loan can be allocated for the Ukraine for strengthening its military capabilities? If this is the case, what terms and what funds will be allocated there?
Well, as you know, the European Union is a strong supporter of Ukraine. The European Union is determined to support the resilience of Ukraine during the conflict, and hopefully soon a post-conflict reconstruction of Ukraine. And we're, as the financing arm of the European Union, we will play our part in that. In fact, only last week, we signed a €2 billion agreement, guarantee agreement, to allow us to increase our financing for transport, for housing, for connectivity, for energy resilience in Ukraine, which will mean a significant step up in our level of activity in Ukraine over the coming months. In security and defence more broadly, that's really about inside the European Union itself. And while the European Investment Bank doesn't finance weapons, we do finance infrastructures that obviously are really important for security and defence more generally inside the European Union. But we really believe the best form of security is through prosperity and partnerships with other countries.
But has there been any changes put into your policy within these, geopolitical tensions?
Clearly, we are stepping up our support for Ukraine, and this is a long-term commitment that we are making. Ukraine is a candidate country now. Since last year of the European Union, will enter the membership of the European Union. And like other candidate countries, it can expect a lot more support from the European Investment Bank. And more broadly, yes, we are also looking at investments inside the European Union that contribute to the resilience and security of the European Union in areas like cyber, our port security, our energy security inside the European Union. So areas that have simultaneously support the economy, but also the resilience and security of our society in the face of the increased geopolitical threats that we now see.
So in my very last question, taking into account now the second term of the US President Donald Trump, what changes in policy of your bank can be anticipated here, or how do you feel in general now, the financial and investment area on the global arena?
Well, look, I think in general there was a famous architect of European Union called Jean Monnet, who always said that Europe is forged in crisis. And what he meant by that is Europe is at its best during periods of turmoil, during periods of crisis. We saw this during the financial crisis 15 years ago with increased European Union integration. We saw it during COVID, more recently with new instruments and new collaboration. And we're seeing it now in Europe. We're seeing the democracies of Europe coming together in a stronger way than ever before to collaborate in areas like strategic autonomy in critical industries, boosting our industries in the face of trade conflict, and security and defence, as we've discussed. So obviously we reflect that in the European Investment Bank as the financial arm of the European Union. We help finance those agreements that European Union countries are making in areas like security and defence, strategic autonomy, artificial intelligence, cyber resilience, energy security. These are areas where there's increasing consensus about the need for Europe to be an independent actor in the world and a strong actor in the world. And that brings forward investments that need to be financed. And we will be there to help support that integration and that advancement of Europe in partnership with countries like Kazakhstan.
Thank you very much for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you.